coming to the relationship between average and marginal revenue, let us see how the two of them operate. Now, before we get there, just to recall, what is average revenue? It is the revenue derived per unit of commodity. Okay, and marginal revenue is what? It is the increase in the total revenue by selling one additional unit of commodity. So, if the average revenue is constant or it falls, the relationship between the two changes, right? If the average revenue is constant, okay, what that means is that both average revenue and marginal revenue are equal. You might not be wondering as what this means. Let me just show this to you. Let's take an example. Suppose there is a company which has a sale on day 1 and day 2. The total revenue of the company from sales on day 1 was rupees 100, right? The total revenue derived by the company after the sales which have concluded on day 2 is 200. Now let us for a moment assume that the number of units which were sold were 1 on day 1. So 1 unit sold, revenue 100. On day 2, the total sales including the sale on day 1 is 2 units, from which the revenue which is derived, total revenue, is 200. Now what is the marginal revenue in this case? The marginal revenue is the increase in the total revenue from sale of one additional unit of commodity. So 200 minus 100 gives you 100, 2 minus 1 gives you 1. So 100 is the marginal revenue, right? How do you calculate average revenue? Average revenue is nothing but the total revenue divided by the number of units. So 100 divided by 1 gives me 100, 200 divided by 2 gives me 100, right? Now if you notice, in this case the average revenue has remained constant. Why? Because it was 100 on day 1, it is 100 on day 2. And what did I say? I said that if average revenue remains constant, that means average revenue is equal to the marginal revenue, right? And which is what is holding on over here as well. That's true, right? But what if the average revenue falls? In that case, the marginal revenue also decreases, but at twice the rate at which the average revenue decreases. Let us look at an example to clarify this point as well. Now in this case, what is happening is the total revenue is 100 from sale of one commodity, therefore the average revenue is 100. By day 2, the total revenue is 120, the total number of units which were sold were 2, and therefore the average revenue was 90, right? What is the marginal revenue? Marginal revenue is 180 minus 100 or 80, right? So if you actually see, suppose before day 1 the sales were 0, right? So from sale of one commodity the sale was 100, therefore the marginal revenue here was 100, right? On second day it became 80, which means there's a decrease of 20% in the marginal revenue. What is the decrease of average revenue? It is 100 minus 90, 10 by 100, which is 10%. So if you notice, when average revenue fell by 10%, marginal revenue fell by 20%. So it's falling twice the rate at which marginal revenue is following.